everybody, my name is Brooklyn, otherwise known as TheDramaticOtaku, and if you're wondering what the fuck is on my face, it's called mental illness. So, I I put this on my face, and put the eyelashes on to try out if this eyelash glue that I got was good, and I realized that I'm not that great at putting on eyelashes. So welcome to the January-February Weeb wrap-up of 2024, the first Weeb wrap-up of the year. If you do not know what the Weeb wrap-up series is, this is my bi-monthly review series where I review all of the manga and anime that I have read, watched, and consumed over the last 2 months. Now, this Weeb wrap-up is the first one where my read and review series also intersects, as I read Betwixt this month, I read Betwixt in January and made an entire video dedicated just to Betwixt. So when it comes up for this volume, I will redirect you guys to that video instead. But not yet. Please watch the rest of this video first. So, with all of that being said, I should probably put on my glasses. Need to be fixed. Oh, the feeling of my eyelashes, falsies going against the glasses, very, very strange. We are going to start with January manga. So, actually this technically starts in late December, and by late December I mean like the last 2 days of December. I got Christmas money, and I went to Dimmicks and ordered the final volume of The Drifting Classroom. Now, I, as you can tell, have the other 2 volumes, and I'm not going to hold this up the entire time. You can't really see them behind me when I sit in front of them, but this is the final volume, or final perfect volume, should I say, of The Drifting Classroom. And I was very excited for these because in my last Weeb wrap-up of the year last year, I loved Volume 2. Absolutely adored Volume 2. What the fuck was that ending? What do you mean they stay in the future? I had so much hope that they were going to go back home. What do you mean they stay in the future? The desolate fucking future. I'm not happy with the outcome of the story, having been so excited for it initially. I purchased this within the last couple days of December, having had Christmas money, and ended up having it being shipped in within 3 days, and was just immensely disappointed with the outcome. The piss volume was not fun. Anyway, overall, I think the second volume probably was the best story-wise because it flowed really, really well. I love the second volume so much because it's just from start to finish, all interconnected perfectly well. Volume 3 is definitely the most horrific, with an actual literal surgery performed on a child in this novel. There's a lot of existential dread and also extreme violence. However, it didn't flow anywhere near as nicely as Volume 2 did. And it felt like it was just punch after punch after punch, much like the first volume of the series. It was predominantly just violence, which got repetitive and boring fairly quickly. Like, it's been violence for almost the entire series, but the second volume actually had like some whimsy to it where it like felt really good. The second and the first and third volume feels like it's just hit after hit after hit. So to have something so good and then the third volume is just exactly the same as the first volume, really, really disappointing. Also, because this got boring very quickly, I kind of just wished for Otomo to die half the time, because he's one of those characters that like really pisses me off, because if he wasn't there, a lot of the conflict wouldn't be happening. Also, Sekia's return, speaking of fuckers that need to die and their presence not being relevant to the story, Sekia's return was super weird and absolutely unneeded. I'm not too happy with the ending, as I felt like it fell flat on its face. At least out of all of the kids that went to the future, you went home. But this truly being the future brings into question the mysticism of the bug creatures existing, because they were one of the kids' like worst fears. How did that happen in the future when like the future is rooted in the reality of Earth and what happens on Earth, you know? It didn't make sense to me. The future humans are also real. They're not like the imaginations of kids. So my question is, how did the bugs and bug creatures not exist, but the future humans are real? I know they're different creatures, but it feels like those two entities should be connected somehow, and like how their relevance should be connected, and they're just not. Also, how did a child get dynamite? Literally, the way they get to the future is because a kid blows up the school. How did a child get hold of dynamite? There's just... And also, what is the point of all this hard working just for them to stay? I think I'm more mad at the fact that they didn't just die in the future and they were given supplies to live and thrive from the past. You got home safe, and his ending I'm happy about. The mother's story is absolutely tragic, but all the kids not going home and just living in the future softens the blow about tenfold on that factor for me. If they'd just died, it'd be more tragic and would have been effective. Or a great existential horror, especially for the likes of The Drifting Classroom, could be or would have been that only some of the kids coming home and questioning if that place was truly the future, knowing what's to come for their lives in the present, that at their time their world collapses at the end of the 20th century, making that future, the future that appears in The Drifting Classroom, to be the potential 21st century. The visual horror in this is great, fantastic even, actually made me recoil at sometimes, but I'm just too disappointed with the story and how it ended to enjoy it as much as I did with the second volume and with its pacing. As I said, I think I would have preferred any other ending, and like there's some scenarios where it just doesn't make sense for them to be there like that, because they just wander back to the school. I thought like the concepts of cannibalism in this was also really interesting, because I expected it at some point and then it finally happened. I was like, oh shit. Overall, I'm just disappointed by this series, because it had a lot of great potential, and then I feel like it just fell flat on its face. They were given a happy ending, and I don't think they should have been. Just with all the atrocities that happened, at least I feel like the happy ending should have been like something along the lines of them actually reaching home and not starting a new life in the future and reclaiming Earth, because I just don't feel like that is a good ending for this series. I ended up giving this a 6.5 out of 10. This was like the last 2 days of December that I read that. I think the last day of December I read that book. Not even, I think I read it the fucking Saturday. But now we actually get into my January picks. I'm actually going to start with Betwixt. I've already talked about Betwixt on my channel before. I'm not actually going to like give my opinions on Betwixt because I already have a video on it. I will just say I still can't get over the fact that this is the Japanese side and this is the English side. I really, really love that. I think it's really cool. My favorite, from most favorite to least favorite story in this series, is Shadow, followed by Kamei, Film Ephemeral, The Window, Never Left, and Mirror Mirror. I gave this one a 7 out of 10 if you want to see my actual review on it. The video is linked in the icon. Forward is Like a Butterfly. Now this, I didn't realize that this is by Sumo Shita, because this is the same person who made Shortcake. And I was very bored by Shortcake. I gave Shortcake to one of my friends because I couldn't actually get into the book whatsoever. It might have been my mental state at the time, but I just was bored when reading it. Maybe I'll get back into it one day, but Like a Butterfly surprised me, and I actually ended up picking up the 3rd volume. I had purchased these, I think, last year, and they were on my to-read list, on my to-read shelves, should I say, and something about the art style I thought was really, really cute. I've fucking damaged it, shit, but I thought it was really, really cute, so I decided to pick it up and read it. I bought this one at I bought this one at Minotaur, and I think I bought this one at Dimmicks. Like a Butterfly Volume 1. So this is from the creator Shortcake, which I already said, a story which I found really boring. I picked this up not realizing it was by the same creator, and ended up being enamored by the main character on the cover. And the cover art having a similarity to that of Io Sakisaka, my favorite romance mangaka, which we will talk about in the February section. My favorite romance mangaka, so I picked it up at Minotaur because it had been cheaper than at Dimmicks. I think that's changed now. Now for the actual story. This is so fucking cute! So fucking cute. It's basically 2 socially awkward nerds, affectionate, not literal, 2 socially awkward nerds. Our main character, Suiren, who is the beautiful girl on the cover, she is a beautiful girl swarmed by people who doesn't like talking because of the attention she gets. Think of Komi from Komi Can't Communicate. It is very similar to that series, except this is a shoujo romance instead of a seinen romance, which I believe Komi Can't Communicate is seinen. If it's not seinen, it's shonen. It's not shoujo. So I would say this is the shoujo version of Komi Can't Communicate. Granted, Suiren actually has social skills, but she gets the name Mysterious Flower, because she is like a mysterious flower on a hill too far away to touch, as by one of the characters in the book says. However, when she falls in love with the I don't know how to speak to girls, I'm so distant Kawasumi, she doesn't wish to be a flower, but a butterfly who can reach him and rest on his shoulder. But a rival in the 2nd year class appears and a romance begins. I forgot to say Suiren is a 1st year, and so is the male love interest, Kawasumi, who is this guy here. Now, I love how cute this is, from Suiren being just a very cute character to the extra uses of panels for movement, because Suiren doesn't talk a lot. Again, like Komi from Komi Can't Communicate, she doesn't speak a lot, but she does speak, and she has the social skills. She just doesn't like communicating because she gets fucking swarmed by people. I also love all the characters. There's not one character that I hate. Maybe dislike a little, but no hate to any single character, which is new for me. There's usually a character that I really fucking hate in at least one of my romance stories. In My Love Mix-Up, it's Ida. In Our Haru Ride, it was So's ex-girlfriend. I don't know if I'm mistaking the series for Love Me, Love Me Not. In Love Me, Love Me Not, I believe it is actually our main love interest, the male one, the blonde one. I didn't like him a lot. In Kaguya-sama Lovers War, I fucking hate which character? Her brother. I fucking hate her brother. There's always one character in any given romance manga that I fucking hate. Not this one. This is probably the first one where I don't hate one of the characters. There's a pretty much perfect mix of humor and cuteness. Generally a pretty stellar romance thus far, and I think of it a lot like Komi Can't Communicate, with a more feminine perspective relatively. Again, this is probably the shoujo Komi Can't Communicate. Now moving on to, my score for this was 8 out of 10. I really liked it. It was a strong stellar start. Next is volume 2 of Like a Butterfly. Took a little while to pick up the pace in this volume, but it was enjoyable enough. It was fun to see a boyish and awkward and embarrassed male love interest who isn't like suave and or super deep. I'm looking at you, Our Haru Ride, and fucking Kaguya-sama Lovers War. Shirogane tries to be suave and deep, but just a male love interest who's just embarrassed and is just unsure of what to do, who isn't like cool, it's what I liked pretty much about Haruhiro Astronaut, how the main male love interest for our protagonist was a dork. He was seen as being a rebel. I can't think of the word right now. I'm sure I will when I edit this. And while it is a very simple romance, and this volume has a lot less luster than the first volume, it has me kicking my feet and giggling because it's so cute. My only critique is that there is a lot of the first few chapters that are very samey, with Kawasumi joining Suiren on the roof with their friends and having the realization that they really like one another. And I also think that Suiren should probably at this point have a few more lines, but I get that that is her character trait, that she is a little more shy, especially around Kawasumi, and like that she likes being quiet. So yeah, this one in comparison to the first volume gets a 6.75 out of 10. I couldn't give it a 7, and it's definitely not as good as the very first volume, though this is a very cute series, and this is one of my new romance pickups. I finished one shoujo beat series and I move on to the fucking next. I'm just gonna have a wall of shoujo beats. Speaking of romance and shoujo beat, we have another shoujo beat series, this being Komomo Confisciary Volume 1. Now, this series, I believe, has 5 volumes, and I'm going to actually be picking this one up, because this one, whereas this was like a nice soft romance, has you like giggling and kicking your feet, this one's an entertaining romance, and by that I mean it's the type of romance where it's a little bit problematic, but it's really fucking funny, because the main character is a dumb bitch, and I love series where the main character is a dumb bitch. I thought originally when picking this up, because this was one of the books that I got from Booktopia when they were doing their Black Friday sales and everything was on sale, and I think this book was like between $3 to $9. I don't remember because I kept like putting stuff in my cart and then deleting it. This was one of the cheaper ones. Now I'm thinking of it, it might have been $2. Anyway, I thought this would be a flop a la Toradora, with the main character being a bratty tsundere, and safe to say, I was pleasantly surprised that that was not the case. Or should I say not exactly the case, because the main character is a fucking dumbass. And I love it. And this works in the series' favor. Komomo is a daughter of a rich family and is very, very spoiled. She's never needed to work a day in her life. And in the beginning of the manga, we meet the 6-year-old Komomo torturing her favorite servant, and apparently personal chef, Natsu. However, one day, he goes to France with his father, and not 10 years later, they are reunited when Natsu begins to run his father's shop. And she is left homeless as her family have become extremely poor, and for some fuck off reason, her parents just don't take her in. Now, for the actual story itself, the trope is something that I have read before, and the character of Komomo tends to get annoying, as do bratty rich kids, and this is where I got the sort of Toradora air. However, Komomo, unlike the tsundere Toradora, she isn't a bully. She isn't mean-spirited, and she's quite literally just a stupid brat. And I really love that the series chose this character type with the really sadistic Natsu. It's really funny. It's a really funny set of tropes to have the just unsuspecting dumbass and the sadistic fucker who wants to make her pay for her past sins that she didn't even realize she was being a stupid bitch for. It's a really funny set of tropes, if not a little bit annoying, and I can see if it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I personally really like it. It's kind of like a guilty pleasure kind of book where I can see why this wouldn't be super popular with people, but I love the messiness of it, and that's why I kind of like this series. At least that's what I think for the first volume. If it turns out to be really shit, because there is one scene in this where it's really, really iffy, because there's a scene where Uncle says he's going to marry Komomo, because, you know, rich people shit. I'm really hoping there's not a huge drama there, but there's going to be. It's cute, but most of all, really funny. The thing that I'm hoping is that they don't pull the arranged marriage trope for Komomo, because it's looking they are setting that up. But with only 5 volumes, I am very interested into where this does go. I have a feeling this is going to be very similar to Yuri Espa in that, like, arranged marriage trope, but I am very excited to see where this goes. I will be picking up this series. I really think this is funny, but I can also see that this really can be, like, divisive on if people really like it or if they really hate it. So I reckon I'm in the camp of I really like it, but with the potential of it's going very south. Like with Idle Dreams. This is one of, like, my messy manga that I'm gonna pick up. Again, like Idle Dreams. I gave Komomo Confisori about a 7 out of 10. I thought it was really fun, I thought it was really funny, and it's very entertaining. We move away from romance for a teeny tiny little bit to talk about Goodbye Eri. So I picked this up a little while ago, and I obviously really like Tatsuki Fujimoto. I obviously really like Chainsaw Man. I've talked about Chainsaw Man before. I haven't talked about Chainsaw Man in a while. Maybe it's about time I talk about Chainsaw Man again. But I obviously collected short stories, and Goodbye Eri was on the list. I was a little worried with how thick it is, how long the story would be, but where it has a lot of thickness, it does not have a lot of dialogue. So I watched this on the train on a hot day. Goodbye Eri is the story of our protagonist shot through his camera. The story follows 3 different arcs: his mother's death, and the film Explosion Death Mum, or Explosion Dead Mum, which is just an interesting title for a fucking film. The slow death of Eri, a girl who loved his movie when everyone else didn't, and the final arc after Eri. All of this, all 3 arcs, being told from an unreliable narrator. When I originally bought the book, there'd been a video I'd seen on TikTok about if you cut up all the blurred panels and put them in order, you can watch the movie that was being made. I think that exercise is absolutely fucking redundant, because the blurred panels aren't TV static, it's motion blur, because the guy is holding the camera, not with any stabilizers shit, he's literally holding his phone the entire time, so a lot of blur is understandable. It's not TV static, it's not like a CRT screen, it's literally just motion blur. It's the blur that occurs when your camera is not steady. He is constantly holding up his camera, and it only becomes more stable as the story continues, as he gets older and understands how to hold a camera better. I really love the inception of all the films within each other, and the concept of how our protagonist is an unreliable narrator, because as the story goes, he's actually editing the story. The first film we see is completely edited, and we find out his mother is actually a bad person. He's editing and has edited the story, so we don't see the full picture until the actual person is dead. I also love the Fujimoto twist of the first movie being how the actual book plays out. It's always like Fujimoto to have a really heartfelt story and then end it with a big fuck you at the end. Especially a big fuck you to the conventions of a classic sad romance. Also, this love interest a bit demanding. Just a little bit. Overall, the actual story itself is enjoyable and I would recommend it. It's mostly imagery, so it's actually a very easy read. But don't let the size intimidate you. It's about a 15 to 30 minute read at max. And generally, I really did like it, but not as much as I liked the likes of, say, Look Back or 2226. I gave this one a 6.5 out of 10. I think it gets a little more hyped up than what it is worth. I think Look Back is probably the better of Fujimoto's, like, long form short stories, or one shots should I say. I think there's one shot that I need to read and I don't know what one it is. I have to do a little look at it. But we move on back into the romance section. onto our last book of January, this being Watakoi, Love is Hard for an Otaku Volume 2. While I am still iffy on the chapter structure being split up, especially when parts end on a cliffhanger, only for the scenes to finish after a whole chapter has split up these two scenes, leaving one chapter to span for almost the entire volume with other full chapters between, I ended up really liking this volume, and there's just something about me loving side characters that, like, really makes itself evident in this novel because Ko is so fucking cute. I love her so much. I don't know how, but in the first volume, I was just convinced Nao was gay. Maybe it's because, like, what's it called? Maybe it's because Narumi is, like, a massive fucking fujoshi, but I was convinced Nao was gay, and to see that he has a female love interest just throws that theory out the window for me. But just, I don't fucking know. But Ko and Nao is such a cute ship. I love it so fucking much. And Ko in general is just such a cute character. And the last chapter of her and Nao ending in a cliffhanger? Evil! I need the third volume. I have the fourth volume. I didn't pick up the third volume. Knew it was gonna bite me in the ass, and look what it's done. Bite me in the ass. I now need the third volume, and I can't buy manga for another month. Genuinely, I really love this volume. Was much more comprehensible than the first volume, I guess, because I sort of understood, like, that what the Watakoi was gonna do, the splitting up chapters thing. So my brain was, like, more used to it, but it still confused the fuck out of me. And I didn't necessarily feel like I was being thrown around half the time when it came to this volume. I decided to give this one an 8 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed it, and surprisingly enjoyed it a lot more than the first actual volume. So let's move into January anime. Okay, so I know I named my last We Wrap Up Ghibli Aplenty, but this is the one where I watched so many fucking Ghibli videos. I think all of my anime for this month was Ghibli. And I know I kind of spoiled it with that Ghibli tier list that I did at the start of February, but I need to talk about these films, and we're starting with Tales of Earthsea because I went in. I was very bored during Tales of Earthsea, and my only enjoyment came out of taking the piss out of it because there is, like, no plot structure whatsoever. It's, like, really, really, like, frustrating how there's a lack of plot. This as a whole feels like a B-grade action animation, something the likes of DreamWorks would have attempted back when they were making 2D animated movies, but the difference? Those movies were interesting and engaging, and even if I didn't care about the plot or, like, the topic of the movie, I still watched the fuck out of those. Those movies were interesting and good. This in all avenues of the world did not feel like a Ghibli movie, and just feels like a rip-off of the Ghibli art style. Sure, it's clean, but it's a little too clean. When I said in my Boy and the Heron review, the mix of 2D and 3D animation with that, like, distinct watercolored background style of Ghibli was, like, really done well, especially with the digitally drawn animation and how it all blended easily together was really nice and very impressive. I had the bar fucking set for me because that was a 2023 film, and other Ghibli directors like Isao Takahata had their own distinct style that also fit very well under the Ghibli name. This felt like a rip-off of any Ghibli film. Such as, if you watch Cobb transforming into the goop creature, it was very reminiscent of No Face. Like, eerily reminiscent of No Face. Now, plot-wise, the first 30 minutes, I didn't know what the fuck was happening. Maybe even the first 40 to 50 minutes. It feels like we're just moving from place to place with no rhyme or reason. Literally, my biggest questions were, one, what is Aaron's motivation, and what is Teru's motivation? For example, in other films, it's very easy to tell. In Whisper of a Heart, Suzuku's motivation is finding Seiji Amazawa and trying to live life like a fairy tale. Her goal is pursuing Seiji in pretty much every sense of the word. When Mani was there, Anne's goal was to find the house. She's depressed and wants to be left alone, finding solace in the house because it connects her to Mani, who she loves because she's gay. Boy and the Heron, his motivation is the death of his mother, his grief, and adjusting to the change of losing a parent. Ponyo wants to be with Sosuke. Chihiro wants her parents back. Kiki is trying to start her life as a witch, grave the fireflies, surviving the war, and taking care of each other. Princess Mononoke is protecting the fucking forest. The fuckers in Castle in the Sky want to find the castle in the fucking sky. I have no clue what the characters in Tale of Earthsea want except for Lord Cobb, but even then, fucker is on thin ice on what that motherfucker wants. The plot feels like it drags you from place to place, as I said, without reason than to move forward with this near non-existent plot. The only story that really comes around and is interesting is around the 1 hour 30 mark, in which we need to defeat Lord Cobb. Why? Because he's trying to destroy the Arch Wizard because the Arch Wizard banished this bastard. Character motivation? Finally! Why was it only provided more than halfway through the fucking film? Throughout the film, I had so many notes that dug into this film, and full disclaimer, I just started calling the characters by different names because it was the only entertainment that I had. And it ended up being validated because of the plot point of apparently all the characters having true names, which is not explained whatsoever. These characters, their names aren't even their actual fucking names. So, to start, as a character, why the fuck is Thurman over there so fucking aggressive? If she is this magical being and can tell Aaron is a threat, then why come around to him so fucking quickly? And so we learn, okay, so Todoroki over here is a fucking orphan. Armin's bad dream. What in the Witch of the Waste? What? If he feels guilty for killing his dad, then why the fuck did he do it? Why? The reason we are given is so dog shit. Tomodachi's life reaction to Erin's confession is so fucking real. Also, I don't know what came over me. I don't know why. That's what I've been fucking asking. What do you mean you don't know why you killed your dad? Did this man just explain the murder of his father as gamer rage? Because that was the explanation. Which the explanation is genuinely he was so scared of dying that he killed his father. What? Moving forward, why is Timu so head over heels suddenly for Rod Laver Arena over here? Why does she now care that Eren confessed for his sins? Who is this doppelganger Armin? It's not Lord Corn of the Cob over here, is it? What does Maleficent fucking want with Egregious over here? Why does he care? There was one singular character that I liked in this movie, and she is Mother. Why did you get mother involved? Her name's Tenna, but she is mother. She's the only character I like. Are you telling me that Arrested Development's doppelganger is not in fact Goth Gandalf, but just another fucking thing? And that thing ended up just being him splitting in two. What seriously and actually is Teru's purpose? Like, Aaron is such a loser character. Something about the sound design of the English dub is really off for some reason as well. Also, Teru can just run to the castle, but it takes all of the other characters multiple long horse rides, and I get it, she's actually a dragon, so that doesn't matter. Spoiler alert. But, like, takes everyone else long horse travel to get to the castle, but not her. She can just run. And this is before we find out she's a fucking dragon. Also, these aren't horses! I don't know what these are, but they're not fucking horses. The only plot going on happens within the last 20 minutes max. And that is being generous. In this film, there are things that I did like. For example, the old ladies are funny as hell. For being only in about one scene, this one scene would have been such a great comedy film. This is why I get the vibe of like the 1990s to early 2000s action adventure animation film. Think of like The Quest for Camelot, something like that. That's the vibe that I think it tried to attempt and reached with the old ladies, but fell flat on its face for every single other fucking thing. Also, Cobweb over here is a little ASMR baddie. Can I please just have 2 hours of Cape Cod speaking? Just speaking. Because I genuinely replayed like the scenes of him speaking more than once. Also, yes, I did find out his voice actor was Willem Dafoe. Can I please have Willem Dafoe ASMR? I would very much appreciate it. This film was not good. It just was not good. It had potential, but dragged its characters from place to place and then to the next place. For fuck's sake, why was Teru a dragon in the first place? What is the point of True Names? It had some enjoyable parts, but this film was not for me. This gets a 4 out of 10. If my notes did not make any coherent sense, that's because this film did not make any coherent sense. Next, we move on to the next Ghibli film, which I have just had a little look, and literally all of my anime for this is Ghibli films. So, because I was finishing off the filmography, I kept saying discography in that Ghibli tier list video. Filmography. So, we move on to Ocean Waves. I am clearly not the target audience for this film. Or rather, I am not the target audience for Ghibli films that are pretty much purely slice of life with no whimsical element. Ocean Waves is very boring. Like, incredibly boring. I think that Rikako is a bitch. I don't understand how anyone likes her and don't understand the romance. I like the queer undertones, but I think I only see that because of this video, which if you haven't seen it before, I would highly recommend it. It will be in the iCard and description down below. Watch it after the rest of this video, please. The soundtrack is honestly wonderful and very cheerful, and I like the character design as well as the landscaped visuals, especially in the city, as well as the fashion of the film, I think is something to put into your style diary. But this film just wasn't it for me. I don't like how the characters are all fawn over Rikako for some reason. Sure, she's been put in a shit scenario and is acting impulsively because of that, and on extension because of that, her female classmates really do not like her, but she doesn't do anything particularly at all redeeming. I don't think I even realized she was acting impulsively because of her situation until writing this fucking review specifically, because it is just an implicit factor for this film. I honestly think I would have liked this film more if it had ended on the pier. Again, I'm not the audience for this film. Even more like explicit romances from Ghibli, I tend to be left scratching my head, but they have more than one redeeming quality that make the film more enjoyable outside of being a romance. Personally, I recommend watching the queer analysis of Ocean Waves and then watching the film, because it adds another layer to watching this film specifically. But I will say and will admit that that specific factor may have been my undoing in understanding the character motivations for some characters as well. Overall, this film also gets a 4 out of 10. Art-wise, it's fantastic and beautiful, but not so enjoyable story-wise. I really fucking hate Rikiko, because she's just a bitch to me and doesn't have any redeeming qualities, and she's redeemed in the end, which is really frustrating. Now let's move on to a much more enjoyable Ghibli film from Up on Poppy Hill. If I had $1 for every time Studio Ghibli made a potential romantic pairing in their films incestual, I would have $2, which isn't a lot, but it's fucking weird it happened twice. From Up on Poppy Hill, I thought would center the whimsical nature of the Latin Quarter clubhouse. Instead, that entire scenario that was advertised to me when I kept clicking on the film instead was a B plot to the main plot of Umi and Shun and their specific love story. Then going into horror, as they could potentially be related, only to find out that at the end of the film, they're not in fact related. Shun just eerily looks like Umi's father, which I feel says a lot about Umi, but yeah, this film was so fucking weird because I was cheering these two on in the first half of the film, and then Shun drops the bombshell that they could be related, and it becomes really fucking awkward. Because how do you recover from that? I physically could not relax for 20 minutes minimum of this film, and the ending was like, haha, JK, we're not actually related. No, because what was that? Why was that needed? And it was such a cute romance before you dropped that fucking bombshell. You could have made it all whimsical and fun about the fucking Latin Quarter clubhouse. And you made them potentially related. Why did we need the potential incest plot? Really, I'm actually so fucking mixed on this film. This feels like the whole of Brave. This feels like the Brave scenario where it was a really good story about a mother and her daughter and breaking down stereotypes and roles about their lives and misogyny and shit. And then you added the fucking bear, and then the mum turns into the bear. This was a good story and a cute romance between classmates and getting involved within the Latin Quarter clubhouse and birthing new holding on to the old and birthing new and stuff like that. And then you added the incest plot. Why? Actually, fucking why? It had good potential, and then you fuck it up with the I think your dad is my dad plot. And what's really sad is that this is one of the better Goro Miyazaki films. This gets a 6 out of 10. It would have gotten an 8 if you didn't have that extra plot line. Bro, oh my god. Next, we have probably the most controversial Studio Ghibli film, Earwig and the Witch. Now, I might be going against the grain on this opinion, but I liked Earwig and the Witch. Do I think more could have been done? Yes. Do I think this would benefit more as a TV show? Yes. And would I like this to be 2D animation? Yes, of course. I actually had some moments where I could visualize what this movie would look like in the 2D art style, but thought it was still whimsical and fun, but it felt like the pilot to a TV show. There was way too much exposition, and the action was really crammed into the end of the film. A lot of the film was in the same spot and was similar dialogue and actions, which could be considered lazy on the film's part. But I liked Ewig decently enough as a character. But I felt like we were watching the filler to two main plot points. I felt like the mother could have been brought in a lot sooner, and like there could have been more done. But I wasn't necessarily disappointed with what we got, maybe because my expectations were essentially on the floor for this film. Because it's exposed, it's been talked about multiple times as being the worst Ghibli film of all time. But for the pure fun of it, I liked the film a lot. Yes, Ewig could get annoying, she's a brat, she doesn't necessarily deserve anything in the film, but there are plenty of other Ghibli kids who do the exact same, and because Ewig is a brat, all of her actions make perfect sense. Honestly, if this had been turned into a full-length TV series, I think I would have watched it, because I honestly love that part about Ewig. It could have been nostalgic, but for what we got, I don't mind it all too much. I personally gave this a 5.5 out of 10. I ranked it slightly lower than From Up on Poppy Hill, just because I do think From Up on Poppy Hill was executed better, but Ewig and the Witch I did still enjoy about the same amount. So my camera died, so I couldn't record in that area anymore, but I don't want to have to get back into my garb to do the rest of January anime because I've only got 2 more movies to talk about. The Wind Rises. Artistically, conceptually, I get it. I like it. It's meant to be mostly biographical film, to an extent like historical fiction, and I do love the sound design of the film as well as the visual and art style of the film, but with the blurring of time and the fact that the first time we see the love interest, she is a child, is really off-putting. She's maybe in her early to mid-teens, but the thing is, we know what Ghibli kids look like versus teenagers and young adults, and Naoko to me seemed like she was in the younger category. Early teen at max. This definitely teen to young adult. Jiro meets child to preteen, and then blur of time seems to really be confusing when the entire time Jiro looks almost exactly the same, and the only time indication we really see is in the other characters, particularly the female characters getting older. Sound design wise, I liked it. Artistically was fantastic, especially in the earthquake scene, but in any other category other than artistic, it was definitely off. It was at some points too quiet, there were sounds missing, and it was first noticeable when Jiro falls over and there's no thud, no grass rustling, which is like a staple sound for Ghibli. Now, you would notice I'm not talking about the actual story, and that would be because I was very bored of this film. It was like a 2-hour film, and it took me 2-hour-long sittings to watch this film. I clocked out of it pretty much half the time, where Ewig had too little settings. The Wind Rises has many and no clear time transitions. I will admit I was very involved in the romance, as unlike other Ghibli romances, this one felt organic and not ruined by a fucking potential incest plot. No, instead it was an age gap romance, which off-put me less, but still off-put me, especially when I thought at first the romance would be with the maid. Generally, I'm very conflicted with this film because I can see how it's a good film. I can see Miyazaki's artisanship in this film. I just did not enjoy it, and I'm very happy The Boy and the Heron has thus far ended up being his final film, because it has truly, if The Wind Rises had truly been his final film, I would be more disappointed than anything else. I appreciate the art, but I did not enjoy it. Also, the first 5 minutes, I could not get over the fact that the voice actor for Child Jiro was Steven Universe. I'm giving this a 6 out of 10. Next, we move forward to My Neighbor the Yamadas. It's cute, lighthearted, funny, was not invested whatsoever. However, because it is very episodic in nature, it's very cute, it's just not my style. I gave it a 5 out of 10. Finally, we have The Red Turtle. Technically, this is a co-production of Ghibli and other studios, but I am still counting it. This film was very artsy, and was is probably the most unique out of all of the Ghibli films, as there wasn't actually any dialogue, and other than like the occasional hey. That was pretty much it. It was very like atmospheric. I liked the atmosphere of it. It just felt like I'd seen the film before in different formats, executed like better. Like the actual like story behind the film is very common. Just no one's done it with a red turtle before, you know? It felt like a mythological story that's just been retold multiple times. I liked the atmospheric nature of the film. I'm also gonna have to give it a 5 out of 10 because, like, it was okay. That's about it. So yeah, that was all of my January anime. Now moving on to February. Okay. And so we move into February anime, and with the combination of me rereading My Love Mix-Up to me starting a new medication and just trying to adapt to it, as well as a new dog coming into the house and just me trying to make videos and all that sort of stuff, as well as working, I didn't watch anything anime related in February. So we move right along to February manga. Now, again, majority of the start of February, My Love Mix-Up. You may notice 2 volumes are missing. I did a manga swap with Mia, and so I didn't read it in February, but I will be reading The Rose of Versailles in March. So, moving into February manga, I kept a lot of these brief solely because I actually read a lot of these on public transport and didn't like mentally have the strength to write about them because I was writing so much about My Love Mix-Up, which still hasn't come out yet. So we're going to start with Sakura Saku Volume 1, a new series from Io Sakisaka that is a lot of sa and k in that one sentence. This is really cute, a really cute new romance about a girl who felt like she faded into the background until one day she was seen. Someone came and saved her, Ryosuke Sakura. She makes it her mission to be as kind as the man who saved her. Then she gets to high school and meets Sakura, the brother of Ryosuke Sakura. And so her mission to get his attention begins. This was a really easy and cute read, especially since it is Io Sakisaka. She is such a good, like, easy romance read, and it's like smooth like butter. That's what it's like reading her books. It's just so easy to get into and smash out within like 15-30 minutes, you know? I'm definitely excited to read this new series. I don't know how else really to describe it. It's very on par with Sakisaka's other work. Very cute, but I will say the story really runs home the value of kindness in a person, which tends to happen a lot in a lot of romances. Apparently, it's so important to be brought so often, brought so much into the story in like actual dialogue that it's honestly comical. Because like other stories do it. Other stories do it. Themes like that are often pushed home in romance manga just for some fuck off reason. Sakura Saku really hits home that kindness is really important as a character trait, and it's this kind of story that makes me realize, oh, yeah, shoujo for younger girls. So this really feels like it is like a preteen novel instead of like, what's it called? Instead of someone my age reading it. Like, at least with some of the other stories that I read, it has a slightly more, like, obviously my Kiyosawa Lovers' War is actually in a more adult, like, teen audience, but stuff like My Love Mix-Up has the potential to be, like, more mature than it is. Same with Al Harurai, Orange, not Idle Dreams, fuck that, Mermaid Saga, all that sort of stuff. All have even Sailor Moon has potential to be loved by an older audience. This very much feels like it's definitely for a younger audience, like for younger girls, preteens, stuff like that. That being said, I did read Al Harurai when I was a teenager, so I might need to reread that. But other than that, I don't particularly have an opinion other than it's really easy to get into, and I cannot wait for the next volume. Also, my volume came squiggly. I didn't do that, it came like this, which is interesting. I think it got more squiggly because we've had a couple of humid days, but it came squiggly. So that was volume 1 of Sakura Saku. Next we're moving on to one of the volumes of manga that I got from my mega manga haul, this being Invitation from a Crab. This was one of the ones I was really excited for because I thought it would be like a philosophical piece like The Cat Returns. It's not. It's more of like an absurdist piece that looks into the things that people don't tend to think about in everyday life. Like, it's really, really like small things, but made into short stories. Similar to like where do pineapples come from? What do pineapples look like? Can you make energy out of coconut juice? Stuff like that. It's really weird, kind of absurd stuff, but stuff that you don't think about and is very like slice of lifey in a more absurdist fashion, and I really like it for that. I was reading it during a time where I was finding it very difficult to do anything. This was before I got onto some proper medication, and so like it was really hard to read, especially since it was actually a kind of anthology. It's technically just one collection of short stories, but it is like an anthology, but it's got chapters. So I didn't make a read and review for it because I didn't know that beforehand. I thought it was like an actual cohesive story. Plus there was too many mini chapters for me to actually like do a read and review on. When I say like anthologies, I feel more like 1721, any of Junji Ito's works that aren't like a cohesive volume like Uzumaki or Tomie, stuff like that. And this one technically is a short story anthology, but not really. It's a very weird case. This is a short story series, mostly of one-shots of this teenager living life, but taking notice of the things you wouldn't usually notice, landing in a wacky and absurd mindsets and situations that all end well. This is really just an absurdist supernatural slice of life where the only real human character is our protagonist, who doesn't particularly have a name nor gender. This story is very much looking at the mundane and making it absurd, and I really like that in stories, especially in like stories that you've never heard of before. It's sometimes the best books are the ones you've never heard of that are really absurd. I will admit I was not too focused on what was going on because I couldn't focus. I have found out that I have thyroid issues, so that probably added to it, but I enjoyed it enough, and I really enjoyed particularly the hyper-realistic scenes with very cartoony base characters. The artist does a fantastic job of doing this really sketchy, hyper-realistic style with having very like cartoony characters. Like on the cover here, the background's very realistic, very stylized, and the character at the front looks like she's been checked? The character on the front looks like she's been sketched out on a napkin. And I'm saying she just because of the bob cut, but it's not really ever specified the age of this character nor the gender. I'm assuming it's a young girl, but I'm not 100% sure. It's super cute, and the mix of slightly different art forms and art styles going on in it is very fun. I definitely recommend for a slice of life short story book. I didn't make a reading review because I didn't know it was a short story collection, but even then, it's more of a cohesive story collection than an anthology. Personally, I gave this a 7 out of 10. Again, I couldn't get into it because I was having issues. I give it a 7 out of 10. I really wasn't paying attention, but I did think it was fun, and it was cute, and a little bit absurd. It's very nice. That's the best way I can describe it. So, this is going to go on to my manga shelves because there's only one volume, thank fucking Christ. And that was the volume that did get me invested into buying that whole bundle, and I'm actually very glad I did. Speaking of the exact same bundle, we have a different volume from that bundle, that being The Witch and the Beast Volume 1. So, this is not what I expected it to be at all. I expected it to be a weird romance. It's not. It's really not. This is both not what I was expecting and exactly what I was expecting. To be 100% honest, I expected an unconventional romance. I thought the girl was the witch and the guy was the beast. Obviously, I was wrong. Girl is the beast. She's actually cursed to be living in the body that she is, and is actually looks a lot more like a barbarian instead of female fucking Bakugo. I genuinely can't tell what she is in her regular body though. Also, her name is Guido. Also, her name is Guido, and she travels with a Shaf. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. A mage, not a witch. And is forced to work for the magical resistance, who work with and for magic, and another sentence that I don't remember. They're trying to find a witch who cursed Guido and undo the curse so that she can return to her body, but until she can, she's stuck in the body of a young woman. Based on the fact that her name is Guido, I would assume in her actual body she's a male barbarian, and has been cursed to take the form of a teenage girl. I think. I don't know. But that's just an assumption. Do I think there could be a potential romance still? Yes. However, minor. As with the first rule of how to break the curse being true love's kiss, I can only assume that is going to be the end game for this series. But I feel it would be platonic instead of romantic, mayhaps. And seeing this style of the novel, it's not gonna 100% be the case, but it feels like it would be the case in this sense. It just seems like it'd go that way with a tragic twist of events. It just seems like it'd go that way in a tragic twist of events. Maybe the original witch dies and a Shaf or another character is seriously injured, and Guido takes more care of that than getting her own body back, but it's unlikely. But it is still a possibility. I've read so much romance and so many series like this where it could potentially happen. The actual pacing is interesting, and the mangaka set up the dynamic of the story really well within the first 2 chapters. And based on the last chapter, I do want to read more. My only fear is the continued monotony of the series as it progresses. And like it ends up being the same result for each case, with either major loss of character to a later introduced third character, or perhaps a serious injury to most likely a Shaf, rendering him useless for a couple of chapters. In the end, I liked it enough. I do think the series will follow that prior formula. And when reading, I found there was a lot of visual mess or visual overstimulation, especially in the action scenes, with so many impact and action frames in the first chapter alone. But it makes up for us with the character design, because I absolutely love Guido's cursed form, and the character of Ashaf. He has like really pretty eyes. which is weird for his character, but I really like it. It's very gothic and very influenced on gothic architecture and gothic art in general. Overall, 7 out of 10. It's not bad. I will continue the series, but I wasn't immediately blown away with the story. But I like it, despite my monotonous tone towards the series. I'm very tired when I wrote this, and I just sort of want to smash out this review because there wasn't a whole lot, and I really actually got my thoughts for Witch and the Beast down very coherently. So I will see if I can pick up volume 2 of Witch and the Beast, but it's not on the top of my not on the top of my list. On the back it says for fans of XXX Holic and Noragami, definitely Noragami. If you like Noragami, you probably will also like this. It's got very similar tones, but because of that is why I think there's going to be romance, because it seems so similar to Noragami, and Noragami has romantic tones. So, finally, we have a continuation from one of my favorite series. We are reading Volume 6 of My Love Mix-Up. Music drama meets relationship drama in this volume. This was so good for the drama of the series, with Yori being jealous of Himari being around other women. A little possessive, not gonna lie, but also she loves Himari. I do also love the interactions of Himari and Lorelai, and this volume all takes place within the span of summer break, which I believe is supposed to be like 2 weeks. With Himari now being Lorelai's manager, while also going on dates with Yori, and Yori says that, like, she's fine with it. She says she's fine with it. She is not fine with it. And this reflects on any romantic moments that they have, and they try and have until the last chapter, where they are at the summer festival and share a proper kiss. I love it so much. It's so cute, and the kiss is absolutely gorgeous, with the actual impact frame being fantastic. I do hate that when they do a double page spread for kisses, they tend to do it like, hold on, where is the frame? They like partially get cut in half, and it's really frustrating unless you like flatten out the book. At least their face is on like one half of the frame. That's why I liked Kuyu Summer Lovers Wars so much, because their actual kiss was on one side of the page, and the rest of it was sort of just background. They didn't really do that with this, and it's a little more frustrating. But it's still gorgeous, and it gave me butterflies because women. I can't wait to see the showdown, and I really want to see Shiho's romance with the blonde chick. I can't remember her name for the fucking life of me, and from memory, it's like much longer than all the other characters. Personally, I give this an 8 out of 10. The series as a whole is definitely getting better. From the slow start that it originally had to now. I love it, I love it, I love it, and I cannot wait until the next volume. That being said, that is all the manga and that I have watched and read in February of 2024. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I promise that hopefully the next month I will actually be, I will actually be reading half of the manga that I got. I have lifted the self-imposed manga ban as of March 5th, but I don't know if I will actually be buying manga because I have to save up for Supernova Melbourne. So I am going to Supernova in April, so I should probably save for that so that I have money. And I will be doing a very special cosplay that you guys will be seeing within this month. Also, because it is March, the Tabathon is up and running, so I will be a little bit distracted during this month, and yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys all next week. I actually will see you guys Friday for a special little video. As I said, I wanted to start doing gaming videos, and I did that last week. yeah. So I have another video coming out this Friday. It's not going to be consistent, not a consistent series. Not like every time I've tried to do a 2-day upload system, it's not worked. So Friday is just sort of my extra video. So if I have extra videos like gaming videos, vlogs, stuff like that, those will go up on Fridays. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, please hit that thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I hate that phrase, hit that thumbs up, but I have to try it once. And I hope to see you guys next week. Bye!